What if I told you 90,000 people watched Nashville get it wrong 10 times in a row on country music's biggest songs, and that was only half the story? You asked for more. There is more. Stay until number 2. The night before, Elvis Presley was set to record what she called her most important copyright. One phone call killed the deal. She cried all night. 18 years later, Whitney Houston made it one of the best-selling singles in recorded music history. Wait until number 1. 3 separate labels failed the same song across 34 years. The 4th would not even release it as a single. It hit number 1 in 48 hours anyway. Hit that subscribe button. Every week on The Country Cut, we go behind the stories Music Row hoped you would forget. These are 10 more country songs that flopped, then became the biggest hits of all time. Ranked from Nashville's most embarrassing oversight to their single worst call in the history of this genre, including Country Music Hall of Fame artists who missed their own greatest songs. Number 10. Amarillo by Morning by George Strait. The song Nashville heard once, called a regional hit, and forgot for a decade. Terry Stafford wrote and recorded it in 1973. His version peaked at number 31 on the country chart and disappeared. A decade later, George Strait took the same song into the studio and stripped it back. Out went the commercial production. In came fiddle and plain delivery, the kind that made you believe the man singing it had actually spent time on a rodeo circuit. Strait's version never hit number 1. It peaked at number 4. But it became one of the most celebrated country songs ever made. Rolling Stone placed it on their list of the 200 greatest country songs of all time. Billboard included it in their 100 best. It is one of the songs Strait plays at every show and has for 40 years. Nashville heard a modest regional hit with a low ceiling. Strait heard something that had never been given the right arrangement. He was right. The chart was wrong. Number 9. Friends in Low Places by Garth Brooks. The song the king of country handed to a complete unknown because the fit was not right. Dwayne Blackwell and Earl Bud Lee wrote it in 1989. They brought it to the biggest name they could reach first. George Strait's team passed. To shop the demo, the writers needed a singer. The one they chose was a young artist who had just signed his first deal but had not yet released anything publicly. They asked him to hold the song. He said yes. That singer was Garth Brooks. He put it on his second album, No Fences, in 1990. It went to number 1 for 4 weeks. It won Single of the Year at both the Academy of Country Music Awards and the Country Music Association Awards in the same year. George Strait has 44 number 1 hits. Not one of them is Friends in Low Places. The king passed. The unknown held on to it. The rest is why Garth Brooks is Garth Brooks. Number 8. Achy, Breaky Heart by Billy Ray Cyrus. The song A Hall of Famer killed over 2 words. Don Von Tress wrote it in 1990. He was not a professional Nashville songwriter. He owned a wallpaper business in Cypress Inn, Tennessee. The song was pitched to the Oak Ridge Boys first. They had built careers on big crossover material. Elvira, Bobby Sue. They were the obvious fit. Their lead singer, Dwayne Allen, heard the title and said no. He did not like the words achy breaky. The group passed. The Marcy Brothers recorded it first under the title Don't Tell My Heart. Their version went nowhere. Billy Ray Cyrus heard it and said he knew what it was before the chorus ended. He put it on his debut album in 1992. It went to number 1 for 5 weeks. It became the first country single to go platinum in nearly a decade, RIAA certified. Joe Bonsall of the Oak Ridge Boys later told a reporter that passing on it was one of the few times they really tanked. Dwayne Allen reportedly still shakes his head about it. 2 words. That is what it cost them. Number 7. Blue by LeAnn Rimes. The song that sat dormant for 40 years and survived the trash can. Bill Mack wrote it in 1956. He pitched it to Patsy Cline in the early 60s. Cline died in a plane crash in 1963 before she recorded it. Over the following decades, multiple artists tried and failed to make it work. By the early 90s, a demo of Blue reached Wilbur Rhymes, father of a young Texas singer named LeAnn. He listened to it and threw it in the trash. His daughter dug it out. She was 11 years old. She added a yodel to the melody and made her father listen again. He changed his mind. LeAnn Rimes released Blue in 1996 at 13 years old on Curb Records. It entered the Billboard Hot 100 at number 3, selling more than 123,000 copies in its first week, the highest figure SoundScan had recorded at that point. She won the Grammy for Best New Artist, one of the youngest recipients in the history of that award. 40 years of failed recordings, a trash can, an 11-year-old who heard what nobody else could. Number 6. El Paso by Marty Robbins. The song a label would not release as a single because it was too long, that won the first Grammy ever given for country music. Robbins recorded it in 1959. At 4 minutes and 38 seconds, it was nearly double the standard length for a hit single. Columbia Records decided it could not go to radio and placed it on an album without releasing it as a single at all. The album version started getting airplay. Listeners called radio stations to request it. Columbia eventually released 2 versions, the full-length cut and an edited version closer to 3 minutes. The public chose the full version overwhelmingly. El Paso hit number 1 on both the country and pop charts simultaneously. In 1961, it won the first Grammy Award ever given for Best Country and Western Recording. It was the kind of song that made the Grand Ole Opry crowd understand that country music could carry a story as long as it needed to. The song Too Long to Release as a single became the standard every country record was measured against. Columbia was right that radio was afraid of it. They were wrong about what that fear meant. Number 5. Wagon Wheel by Old Crow Medicine Show. The song Bob Dylan abandoned in 1973 that a teenager finished 20 years later. Dylan recorded a rough demo with a chorus for a film session and left the verses unfinished. The sketch was never officially released. It circulated only on bootlegs. Ketch Secor was 17 in 1994 when he got hold of one of those copies. He wrote verses around Dylan's abandoned chorus and built a full song. Old Crow Medicine Show released Wagon Wheel in 2004. It peaked at number 68 on the country album chart. In 2013, Darius Rucker covered it. It went to number 1 and became one of the most played country songs of the decade. Dylan and Secor share the writing credit. Dylan's contribution was a half-finished chorus he recorded for a film and never released. A discarded bootleg sketch, a 17-year-old, a debut album that peaked at 68. The most played country song of 2013. If you are watching this and starting to see the pattern, hit that like button right now. It helps this video reach more people who want the real history of country music. And subscribe to The Country Cut if you have not already. Number 4. Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys by Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson. The song Nashville heard twice and underestimated both times. Ed Bruce wrote it in 1975 and recorded it himself. He was a working Nashville songwriter with real chart history. His version peaked at number 28. It circulated in Nashville's publishing world and nobody pulled it off the shelf. In 1978, Waylon and Willie found it while building a joint album. Their version was spare and unhurried, carrying the same unapologetic directness that defined the outlaw movement at its peak. It went to number 1. It won the Grammy for Best Country Vocal Performance by a Duo or Group. It became one of the defining songs of the era. Ed Bruce's version sits at number 28. Waylon and Willie heard what that should have been and gave it everything it was owed. Number 3. Before He Cheats by Carrie Underwood. The song radio programmers called too aggressive for country that swept 2 consecutive Grammy ceremonies. Josh Keir and Chris Tompkins wrote it in 2003. The premise: a woman destroys her cheating boyfriend's truck with complete calm. When Nashville's radio programmers heard the demo, their concern was unanimous. Too rock, too aggressive, too far outside the lane. The song circulated for the better part of 2 years without a home. When Carrie Underwood won American Idol in 2005, Music Row was uncertain what to do with her. Before He Cheats was the answer nobody expected. It went to #1 for 5 weeks. It won the Grammy for Best Female Country Vocal Performance. The songwriters won the Grammy for Best Country Song. The programmers who called it too aggressive watched it become one of the most played country songs in years. The song they said did not belong on country radio defined a decade of it. Number 2. I Will Always Love You by Dolly Parton. The song Elvis Presley sang in a courthouse parking lot because he never got to record it in a studio. Parton wrote it in 1973 as a farewell to her mentor Porter Wagoner. It went to #1 in 1974. She owned the publishing rights outright and called it the most important copyright in her catalog. Elvis wanted to record it. The session was scheduled. The night before, Colonel Tom Parker called her. Parker said Elvis did not record songs without receiving at least half the publishing rights. Non-negotiable. Parton said no. She cried all night. The session never happened. Priscilla Presley told Parton years later that when she and Elvis walked down the courthouse steps the day their divorce was finalized, he sang I Will Always Love You to her as they walked. He sang it in a parking lot because he never got to record it in a studio. In 1992, Whitney Houston recorded it for The Bodyguard. It became one of the best-selling singles in the history of recorded music, RIAA certified as one of the top-selling physical singles ever pressed. Colonel Parker's demand for 50 cents on the dollar cost them everything. Parton was right. She just had to cry all night to find out. Number 1. Tennessee Whiskey. The song 4 separate people in the music industry got wrong, one after another, across 34 years. Dean Dillon and Linda Hargrove wrote it in 1981. Before it was ever recorded, the writers pitched it to George Strait. He turned it down. David Allan Coe became the first artist to cut it. His version peaked at number 77. In 1983, George Jones recorded it for Epic Records, a legend whose name on a single moved charts. His version peaked at number 2. The song sat for 30 years. In 2015, Chris Stapleton recorded it for his debut album on Mercury Nashville and performed it with Justin Timberlake at the CMA Awards. The video reached every corner of the internet by the following morning. Mercury Nashville did not release it as a single. Not before the performance. Not after. It hit number 1 within 48 hours. Without a single release. Without a radio campaign. It is now RIAA certified double diamond, one of the highest certifications in the history of country music. Strait turned it down before it existed. Coe peaked at 77. Jones peaked at 2. Mercury Nashville refused to release it as a single after it went viral. The audience did not need any of them. They sent it to number 1 anyway. If you made it to number 1, you know something most people on Music Row have spent careers avoiding. The gatekeepers have been wrong about the greatest songs in the history of this music. Labels, radio programmers, country music Hall of Fame artists, legendary managers. A teenager with a Dylan bootleg heard something they all missed. An 11-year-old pulling a demo from a trash can heard something they all missed. Drop a comment. Are you Team Achy Breaky Heart, the song 2 words killed for a Hall of Famer? Team I Will Always Love You, the song Parker's greed accidentally handed to Whitney Houston? Or Team Tennessee Whiskey, the song 4 separate people got wrong across 34 years? I read every comment. Subscribe to The Country Cut if you have not already and ring that notification bell. We are only just getting started.